Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Learning Chinese by Teaching. This is my multi-week series that I go over everything we went in class in hopes that you can learn a little bit of what I'm learning in my Chinese class. This is week 4 and may be confused because I didn't have a week 3. There was a bit of break in class, so I'm just going to skip on to week 4. Stick around at the end and I'll show you the little song that I made using a bunch of rhythmic verses and my own beat that I made to go with it, which may or may not be good. Alright, let's get to it. So this week we added on to our knowledge of constants, different Chinese sounds, the en and ng, as well as we learned a bunch of new Chinese words that we need to learn how to recognize, mainly people and parts of the body. And lastly, we went over a little bit more in depth into the different strokes and the order of strokes that you have to use while writing the Chinese character Han. So when we're talking about the Chinese sounds and the consonants, the part that I was really focused on this week was more of the post part, in that you have your vowel, simple vowel, and then you have the consonant. Both of the consonants that we learned are for N and NG. Now, the way you say these does matter. For the N, you're going to have the tongue at the front of your mouth. And for the NG, you're going to have the tongue on the palate of your mouth. Now, the consonants, when used with the simple vowels, sound as such. An, en, yin. And for the NG, it'll be ang, ong, yin. Alright, so now that we learned that, let's move on to the next part. So for the next part of this lesson, we went over multiple different new vocabulary words, and one of the ways that we use in class to learn them and make sure is of course repetition, but even more to insight it into our memory, we use these rhythmic verses. And they all come in these textbook. Every single lesson has them, and we'll go over a few of them right now. And a cool way is once you get the sentence structure down, you can start replacing the different words. So as you have like the gorilla is slow, then you can replace the gorilla with brother or father, or nouns and pronouns and verbs and whatnot go into their proper places. This helps us not only learn new words but also learn the sentence structure. So for one of the examples is actually about gorilla, and it goes something along the lines of dong ma, xing xing, dong ma, bu dong, xing xing, bu dong. Now, what this said is understand. Dong is a word for understand, and ma is a particle word, meaning that when you use it, it's like using a question mark at the end of your sentence, or at the end of whatever phrase you have. So when you just say dong ma, you're asking understanding, is it understanding? And then you clarify more by saying xing xing dong ma. Now, what's important to note is that I'm trying to really focus on the tones that I'm using, because it can mean something completely different. So when I'm saying dong, I'm trying to follow the tone of the third tone, san sheng. And if I say dong, it can mean something completely different. And I believe, yes, depending on how you say it, D-E-N-G with the first tongue is lamp, and that sounds very similar to dong. But when you move on, you'll have other words like nar and nar, which is literally a question saying where, and then another saying there. So you can see how the tone is very important in this. But the way I was talking about how you could use the little rhythmic verses, as it were, to learn sentence structure is you figure out a similar word and then you replace a word in the sentence. So instead of saying dong ma, you could say something like lan ma, which means is lazy. So lan ma, xing xing lan ma, bu lan, xing xing bu lan. Now, I may not have come across very well, but that would be the third tone, lan, meaning lazy. So L-A-N, with the A being in the third tone, it would have like a V on top of it, or a little U. Now, one of the other things that we did in this section is we started to learn some more important Chinese words that can be used to further our sentences and whatnot. So they were people, parts of the body. I'll show it right here real quick, and then I'll kind of go into a little bit more of that. So some of the ones that are important, or part of the reason that this is important, is because we will often see these words or radicals in other words. One that is used constantly is fu, and that one is that it means father, but it's also in the word when you say like dad, like baba. Another you might see a lot is shu, or you might see zhou. I've seen wang. You may not know what any of these are, but the point is to say that we're learning valuable words to enhance our understanding of other words. It's important to know that in Chinese, while compared to other languages, you can see a word and you might know what it means, but you don't know how to pronounce it. That's versus majority of other words like English, for example, where you can see a word, you know how to pronounce it, but you don't know what it means. So that's kind of why it's important to know these additional words and radicals every lesson. So let's move on to the next part. So next up is on the topic of writing the Chinese characters. This is something that is very daunting to a lot of people. But part of what helps to learn them is to learn the methodology behind it and what the different strokes are called, because each individual stroke isn't just a drawing, it's an actual part. We have basic strokes like hung, which is just a straight line. We have a vertical line, which is shu. We have a curved line to the left, which is pie or piu. We have a line to the right, which is na. We have a dot kind of to the right as well, which is dian. And then we have a line that goes up from the left to the right. That's tu. But it gets a little bit more complicated because obviously not all Chinese characters in Han are made up of just these basic strokes. So that's where complex strokes come in. Sometimes it is as simple as just combining the basic ones to make the new one. So you could have a hung shu, or you could have an additional ones where you have a hook. So it would be like a hung go, meaning the go literally just means hook. Now, why this is important and when I actually use it is I'm trying to figure out how to write a Chinese character. And I don't know sometimes if the line that I'm drawing is supposed to just be like a straight line and the text software makes it look like a little fancy paintbrush, or if it's actually supposed to be a straight line with a hook added to it. that's where I go and read the complex, or that's where I go and read the stroke order, because the stroke order actually tells you if it's supposed to be a hook, if it's supposed to be a straight line, if it's supposed to be a curved line. The stroke order and what the strokes are called are actually very important. Along with that, some of the stroke order, like kind of just a basic stroke order rule, and while it's not absolute and firm, the rules for stroke order typically will go from the top left corner and make your way down to the bottom right corner. So you're not just going to start at the bottom and then you're just going to do a random one here and then another one there and then so on and so forth. You're actually going to start in the top on the left, just like if you're writing a paper in English, and you're going to make your way down to the right. That about covers it for stroke order and things of that nature. Let's move on. Alright guys, that's about it. Let's wrap it up here. I want to thank you for staying with me this long. I'm not very familiar with making videos and posts at this time, but again, thank you very much. If you want to, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If not, that is absolutely fine. This is for class and also so that I can kind of learn myself, and hopefully you can learn a little bit of Chinese yourself, and this might get you motivated. It's not horribly hard, you just have to stick with it. You have to know the basics and the foundations, and I honestly believe that anybody can do it if they have a little bit of time and a little bit of effort and a little bit of persistence. Once again, thank you. It's been a blast, and stick around if you want to hear my my good or not good song. Bye.
懂马懂马，星星懂马，不懂星星不懂。难不难？难不难？你看难不难？很难，真的很难。慢不慢？慢不慢？你看慢不慢？不慢，真的不慢。